Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Although in this situation this is not appropriate question, I know, because we all are not doing well. Everything is not well around the globe because we all are suffering in one ways or the other. But what can we do actually? If we just look precisely, then we cannot do much rather than just following the government rules by maintaining social distancing and the health hygienes along with the other protocols provided by the government in order to contain this virus, because right now we don't have a lethal solution to this problem which has created a lot of trouble in this world. So what we can do only is to maintain social distancing and to avoid going out as much as we can in order to contain this virus, and this is the only way to find a solution, or rather to contain this virus right now. Anyways guys, in today's video, as you can see that I am going to paint a portrait composition, and the colors that I am going to use for today are very interesting because I am going to blend two different colors for this particular portrait painting or portrait composition, whatever you want to say it. The different colors that I'm going to use today are watercolors and gouache. I'm going to use both of them together, and at this stage you can see that I'm just putting a very thin wash of color. As you can see that actually this is a color which is created by mixing a light tone of burnt sienna mixed with a bit of Prussian blue and a slight bit of sap green. So this is kind of a grayish color that I'm actually putting in order to define the different values at this stage. Right now I'm not concerned about the darkest dark or the values that are actually going to make this portrait look live, because in watercolors it is a transparent medium and we must work in different layers. As you can see that I'm just putting thin layers of paint at this stage. It is not about putting a thick layer of color all at once and then just trying to blend them together as we do with opaque mediums. And you will also see that technique which I will use while painting the lower section of this particular portrait, that I will be using gouache. So with the mediums our approach also must change, and at this stage you can see that how I have used a very thin wash of color to define this whole portrait. By the side of this video, as you can see that I have shown a close-up of the face from my final painting. Now there might be some differences between what you are watching in the reference or what is meant to be reference in this particular case, that is actually the final painting, and what I am painting right now, because that is caused by the camera angles that was fixed to some other angle while shooting. So it is not actually perfectly horizontal or perfectly aligned to that of the surface where I am working. So there might be some differences, but I think you can sort that out. Now at this stage you can see that I am trying to build the different areas around the eyes and the cheeks, because it is not about painting certain things that you actually don't feel. In order to paint the skin at this stage, I have to feel that skin. I have to understand the different anatomical structure of the skin before painting it. It is not about merely copying the things that you are looking at. And you can see that although it seems like that it is very muted, or it is a kind of like white all around the place in the face, because she is a fair lady. Now to speak of this lady, if you want to know who she is, then please stay with me, because at the end of the video I will reveal her name, and she is one of the most important figure in Indian modern art. Now as you can see that I am slowly building different layers of paint to depict the dark shadowed areas in this particular portrait, but I'm not trying to paint them all at once. What that will do is it will ruin all the transparency in the colors, and the colors will start to look like muddy, and it will act like some opaque mediums rather than watercolor transparent effect that you get. Now if you want to see the best example of transparency, then you can actually look at the reference image that I have put by the side of this video. That is actually the finished piece, as I said earlier. In the lips, if you just look precisely, you can see the different layers of paint that are actually accumulated together so that they are looking three-dimensional. So that is the beauty of transparency. You can actually see the lightest light of the colors once the dark is being established. And another important thing is that whenever we just try to paint anything in monochromatic color or gray tones, then we just try to paint that particular portrait or whatever subject, still life, using only one color. That is the mistake we do, because in that also, if you just paint with a single color, then it becomes very monotonous. Then there is no interest among the colors in that particular subject or portrait or still life, whatever you are painting. So in this case, you have seen that although it is monochromatic, but I have tried to use different colors in that particular scheme of paints. For an example, you can see a bit of tint that I have used from the Crimson Lake, a tint of the Prussian blue mixed with a bit of sap green, and a bit of yellow ochre is also been mixed with the colors in order to warm the colors a bit. So it is a very important aspect when it comes to selection of colors. Now what you can see right now is that I'm establishing a quite darker tone in case of the eyebrows, because the eyebrows and the hairs are actually going to be the darkest dark in this particular portrait, and also the eyes. So you can see that I have slowly started to build the features of the face, because in this portrait there is not much with her face. That means the cheekbones and the other things in this portrait are not actually it is not actually containing a lot of dimensions that can demarcate the different areas of the face. It is quite flat, but in that flatness also there are some minute differences and value differences that we need to capture in our portrait. So as you can see, I'm again trying to build some of the layers on the eyebrows, and you can see that I'm slowly trying to make them layer by layer. In that case also I'm not putting a darker tone all at once. Now I have again zoomed in that face a bit more so that you can better understand how I have painted the eyes, because in this particular portrait, and to be precise with this portrait and her face, in this case the eyes becomes the most essential part of this portrait. Anyways, whatever portrait you do, the eyes becomes the heart of that portrait. It's actually takes you through the imagery of that particular essence that the artist is trying to depict with you using that particular portrait, and it is also an important factor in determining the likeness of the subject, whatever you are painting, along with the original person. So in this case also you can see that how I have used various tones of the colors in order to build the eyes slowly. It is not going to be the final tone in this case. The same I have done with the lips as well, and I'm trying to blend them together. Now I have started working on the pupil, and you can see that I'm slowly trying to darken this area of the pupil, but at one stage I just was unable to retain that pepper white. Another thing that I would like to share with you is that I don't use white and black in my paintings, especially when using watercolors. I try to paint them as traditionally as possible, so I try to retain the pepper white for the extreme highlights. So in the pupil I just messed up that area a bit, but initially I was thinking of going over it, but as an amateur artist what you would have done is that painted over it and it would have created a mess. But what I did, I just let the layer of paint dry, and then once it was dried, as you can see, I just went over it with a darker tone, so it was actually fixed. So these are the things that comes with experience and you learn over the period of time. Now at this stage you can see that I'm slowly trying to build the different colors, and I'm working on the lips to define its values and the dimension. Now I have also used some colors on the background in order to support this portrait so that the face becomes more prominent. Now I have started working on the hairs, and you can see that at this stage also I am using a very thin and light wash of the colors, and you can see that it is not black. Whenever you will use a color that is darker in tone in watercolor, don't try to use direct black. This is a color which is prepared by using burnt sienna, a bit of sap green and Prussian blue along with a bit of alizarin crimson. As you can see that how I am trying to retain the highlighted areas by using wet on wet technique, but other areas I'm just painting them wet on dry. And another important thing is that as you can see that I'm just creating a smooth transition along the side of the hairline. That becomes essential, and right now I'm very delicately trying to paint the hairline, because this actually makes a lot of difference when it comes to likeness. So right after I have done this area, you can see that this face has started to look much more prominent than earlier. That is just because of the contrast that is being created only because of the fact that the different colors, that is the dark tone, is being placed against the lighter tone. And in order to balance that even more, I have used another wash of color in the background. Now you can see that how I'm again going with a light wash of color in the hairs, and then I am just painting the sari that is worn by her. You can see that how I'm just trying to paint the falls and the different things, although I'm not trying to make it as realistic as possible because it is not that important. I'm just trying to keep it suggestive, but you can see that how I am just moving my brush in order to create an even transition in that area. Now you can see that I'm just manipulating on certain areas in order to put some more values in the skin. And right now what you can see is that I'm just working on that plate. There are some motifs, but I'm not trying to copy them, rather I'm trying to paint them suggestively using some random brushwork. Now I am using different values of the same colors on the face and by the side of it in order to tweak some areas so that it looks even more refined and like the portrait. I'm just working on the chin area to add a darker tone in that particular area, which is actually going to create more dimension in her face. So at this stage you can see that this portrait, this face is almost 60% done. So I'm tweaking some values here and there. So now whatever things I'm doing is just refinement. It is all about adding some details here and there so that it looks the more detailed. See, actually you don't need to add a lot of details in order to make something look detailed. It may be contradictory, but that is what it is. You just need to add the sufficient amount of details so that it looks detailed enough. So at this stage you can see that I have started working with the gouache, and you can see from my approach that what I am following right now is I'm just trying to build the different layers of the colors, and at this stage I'm not concerned about values much because I'm trying to cover the white of the area at this stage, where I'm mainly using block of colors in order to depict certain areas. And I have fast forwarded this process quite a bit because it was getting much longer video, and it is the longest video I have actually created so far on my channel. Actually some are requesting me to put more longer videos, more real-time footage, so that they can actually relate to what I am doing to get a better grasp of my whole painting process. So I thought of making this video a bit longer. Please let me know whether this video is helpful for you, especially to those people who actually requested me for a longer video. Please let me know whether this video is helpful in terms of getting the things in a more conceivable way, or it is like the earlier where you used to complain that the video is very short. So as you can see that as I said earlier, at this stage I'm just trying to cover the white of the paper using the block of the colors, and the main colors that are used for this particular area is a lot of brown, orange and yellow ochre. Orange and yellow ochre are actually mixed together in order to make that fair skinned lady that you can see sitting on the second position from the left. Now you can see that I'm slowly trying to build the different values. As you can see, it is all about building the layers upon layers, and with gouache one advantage is that you can actually put a lot of layers of paint one over another, and the color also dries pretty fast, so you don't have to worry about the smudging of the paint like watercolors or the oils that you need to wait for days. But in this case it is a very good or handy paint for those who actually want to paint fast. And whatever I am doing is I'm just trying to create a transition with the background and that portrait using a light tinted orange color. Now at this stage you can see that I'm just trying to create the different brushworks in the background to make it look more like very organic and a bit rough in nature. Now I'm painting the face of the first girl from the left. I'm just trying to establish the different darker tones on her face. You can see that how I have established a block of dark tone on her face, and then I just made an even transition with a tinted orange color to make the face look more appealing. Now for that I have obviously took the reference of her original paintings, although I'm not claiming that this will look exactly as how this lady painted. Now when speaking of this lady, as I told earlier, I will just reveal her name. She is Amrita Shergill. She was actually an Hungarian Indian painter who was actually intrigued by our Indian culture and actually felt in love with this country and its subject. So her style is quite a blended mixture of Western and Indian style. If you want to know more about this artist, then you are just only one click away than getting your curiosities fulfilled, because nowadays you can just Google it and you will be bombarded with different articles about this lady. If you are interested in art and especially in Indian art, then I will highly recommend you to go and check who is Amrita Shergill, and you will surely get inspired by her works. To be precise, this is the most enjoyable part that I personally like while working with gouache is the detailing part, because it is so satisfying that for a moment you will just feel like as if you are working in oils. So right now what you can see that I have used a small pointed brush in order to paint this area so that I can add all the details. This was actually very enjoyable for me painting this particular portrait, because it had a lot of interesting areas which I really loved. Now as you can see, I'm just working on the sari, which is as you can see that from the reference in the video, the colors are a bit muted. That is because of my recording camera, but it is actually a very even transition between the reds and the black, because the black is not that prominent. It is actually turning into red at some stage. So this is what is very important with painting something like this, that you have to be very careful about the transition of the colors. In this particular style of this artist, she used to make a very good transition of the colors in order to make the colors look more organic and rich. So I tried my best to put the things as how it was. Now at this stage you can see that I'm just finished with the 3 figures from the left, and just I'm working on the figure sitting on the right corner. So for her face I used a bit of burnt sienna mixed with a bit of orange tinted with white in order to paint her face. And all these 4 figures are actually very interesting in terms of colors, because they are almost sharing the same colors, but they are painted in such a way that they all look different. So as you can see that I am just putting the motifs on her blouse that is actually creating a lot of interest in this particular figure. At this stage the painting is done, and here is the finished piece. As you can see guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please stay safe. See you soon in my next video. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to support my work, then please do like, comment and share my works, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon, which is very important, so that you get notified as soon as I post a new video.